Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Mama Calls Me Kevin. I've been known by a lot of other names, too. But we're going to talk tonight to someone that also goes by a couple of names. You might call him Zach, or perhaps you've called him Taco, or perhaps you've called him something I can't say on the radio. Tonight, we bring you Beer with Zack Roskop. Zach, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this all week.
I'm sure you have.
Just glad to be doing this, and I appreciate you. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, let's jump right in and get to know Zack Roskop a little bit better. Zach, you work in the craft beer industry, also the tourism industry.
Yes.
There's a lot of duality to what you
Yes.
do. And we'll break that down in just a moment. But let's start off with how you got into craft beer. Do you have a beginning point, a moment in time perhaps that you had a craft beer experience that changed your life?
So let's go back to the beginning. It was the summer of 1969. It was.
It totally was not.
It was. It was Denver, Colorado. That's where my parents met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. No, for real. So full confession. When I was not of legal age to consume, I had a roommate who we begged to buy us beer. And the only beer he would buy us was Yuengling. And since that was all I had available, I sort of acquired a taste for it. I turned 21, and I was looking for a bar in Knoxville that served Yuengling. And the only place that I could find was the Beard and Beer Market. So I went to the Beard and Beer Market and wore that keg out. Until one day I showed up, and they were out of Yuengling, and I was lost. I didn't know what to do. And the bartender said, "Do you like Yuengling?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, have you ever tried the Highland Brewing Company's Gaelic Ale?" And I said, "No, let me get a pint of that." I fell in love with it. So now I only drink 2 beers. Until one day, you see where this story's going? Mm-hmm. I showed up at Beer and Beer Market. There was no Yuengling, no Gaelic Ale. What's next? Oh, have you had Fat Tire by New Belgium? From there, my palate started to change. My exploration started to change. My desire for something new and exciting started to change. And from that point forward, every wedding, funeral, business trip, it doesn't matter. Anytime I leave the city of Knoxville, it's all centered around what brewery can I discover? What kind of beer can I enjoy? And my love for craft beer started very young, right at 21, and I haven't looked back.
That's awesome. I had a similar thing. My first legal beer was also technically a craft beer. It was a Samuel Adams Boston Lager. Yeah.
That's a good beer.
A guy bought me one right at midnight as I turned 21, so I'll never forget that. So as you got into the craft beer there, and you obviously developed a passion for it, at some point you decided you wanted to turn this into a career. What inspired you and gave you the idea for Nox Brew Tours? How did this all begin?
So the way that you just set me up for that question makes it sound way more intentional and like way more like way more business model-y than it really was.
Right.
It was the summer of 2000.
I mean, it could be as simple as, hey, you guys want to hop in the Civic and let's hit all the breweries today.
It was the summer of 2014. I was playing in a band at the time that it came to an end, and that was sort of the end of that adventure, and wasn't sure what was next. I had actually dropped out of college to pursue music, and so the band came to an end. And I'm like, okay, what do I do next? Do I go back to school? Do I get a real job? Quote, whatever. And I loved beer. I love people. I love Knoxville. And I had heard a rumor about a place called Crafty Bastard Brewery that was going to be opening. I was the 3rd person to like their Facebook page.
Wow.
I sent them a message. They invited me over to their house. They showed me around, and I remember that night calling my dad and saying, "Dad, you need to help me." I say this because my parents had a lot of entrepreneurial experience, and I wanted to lean on them for that business model and business planning. And I said, now's the time. We have 4 breweries in Knoxville. We have 2 in planning. I love people. I love beer. I love Knoxville. Let's buy. I'm going to buy a short bus. So I did. I bought a short bus off Craigslist.
Nice.
I ripped everything out of the inside. We painted it white. We put, quote, racing stripes on it, which was my dad's idea. I was super reluctant to his idea until I sort of mocked it up on PowerPoint. That was the extent of my graphic design at that point.
You can't be great at everything.
Showed up at my parents' house the next day with a can of blue paint and a can of red paint. We painted those stripes on, and November 28th, 2014, my dad's birthday, we ran our first official tour to the public.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it's been a crazy ride since. We're about 35 tours away from 1,500 brew tours.
Wow.
Which has been crazy. It's been over 5.5 years. We've got 3 vehicles. We work with over 15 breweries. Mm-hmm. It's been real crazy.
And it has, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been on several. I've done the private party thing for my birthday one year.
I remember that we played a drinking game at Last Days of Autumn. That
was my request. I'm like, I want to do the party, but I want you to host me in a game of beer nut at the end of it.
Yes.
And you complied because you're very good to work with.
By the way,
your guests.
We're adding the rules to beer nut to the NoxBrewTours.com website next week.
Wonderful.
And if you email us, we'll ship you one in the mail. We'll talk about that at a later show.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I did the private tour. I've done. You remember we talked last week about the 2 complete radio shows that we did.
Live from the brew bus.
Live from the brew bus. Let's see what else. I was on the 1,000th tour.
You were.
I did the Hemp and Hops tour.
Yep.
And one time, I just took advantage of your transportation service.
And you rode the loop?
No, you came and picked up my entire family and took us to the airport.
Drove you to the airport
because I had a family of 6 with luggage getting on an airplane.
Yeah. And that's just a fun way to get to the airport. I mean, I've picked people. I have picked people up from the airport in the Knox Brew Tours bus. It's like, welcome to Knoxville. Hop on the bus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure you've had other people trying to jump on. Like, I'm canceling my Uber. I want to get on this bus.
Yeah.
There's a Knoxville beer bus in front of the airport. I'm getting on.
I'm canceling the Uber, and I'm getting on the Brewber.
I think you just discovered your next business model.
Brewber drinks.
Now, when you take a brew tour, you'll notice, and we mentioned this at the beginning of the interview, that you use the nickname Taco.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to know
the story.
Why.
Okay. So this is
we
great.
all want to know why.
So in the early days, we used fake names on the tours. The idea was that it was just fun, and it was like, okay, when you have a few beers, buzzed you might make a few decisions that sober you would be less excited about. And so if you give us a fake name, then whatever poor decisions that you might make as an adult, maybe they won't make it back to you. What's funny about this, though, was every single tour was different. The driver and the guide would just pick a theme. So I would look at the driver and say, okay, tonight's theme is, cartoon characters. And then you'd pick a cartoon character and you'd go. The problem with this was if you looked at our TripAdvisor and our Yelp pages in the early days, it looked like we had about 57 employees.
Oh, because you always had a different...
So it was like Maverick. Gotcha. It'd be like Maverick was a great tour guide.
Bugs Bunny was better.
Yeah, and then the next one was like, it was just... It was a different... So, and also, we'd get these positive reviews, and I would contact my team, and I'd say, hey, who was blah, blah, blah that gave this tour? And they were like, I don't know. Like, nobody could remember.
Yeah.
So, one fateful tour night, I decided to go with TV characters. And I chose the name Taco from the show The League.
Okay.
And a participant on the tour went by the name Chalupa Batman.
Okay. And
Chalupa Batman ended up later applying for a job and becoming one of our tour guides. And she was Chalupa, I was Taco, and we realized we needed to keep these names so that they're the same.
Gotcha.
So I told the other members on the team they needed to keep their names, and I never once told them to go with a Mexican food name.
They just all fell in line.
But somehow we have a queso, we had a gordita for a while, we had a salsa, and now we've broken out of that a little bit. We've got an Ace and a Fluffy, and somebody just goes by the name Seth because he didn't understand that he was supposed to write a fake name on his name tag, and we didn't want to give him a new name tag. So we just call him just Seth at this point.
That's wonderful.
But real quick, the three reasons we use the fake names. Reason number one is it's super fun. Reason number two is that it sort of protects our team a little bit. Some of our team have full-time jobs. They want to kind of just have a little bit of anonymity.
Right.
But the third reason we use it is the funniest. If I'm ever out in public and somebody walks up to me and they're like, Taco, what's up, man? And I have no idea who they are, they've just tipped me off.
That you met them
That
on
I
a
met
tour.
them on a tour.
So you can thank them for their business.
Because no one would ever call me Taco unless they've taken the tour. So I'd be like, hey, man, thanks so much for taking the tour. We appreciate your support.
So what we've all learned here today is that if you ever want to mess with Zack in public, call him Taco, especially if you've never taken a Nox Brew Tour.
And I'll pretend you've taken the tour. And I'll really pretend like I mean it. My parents used to... My parents used to own this seafood restaurant called Squirrely Shirley Shrimp Shack.
Okay.
And anytime my mom would tell everybody that her name is Shirley. So anytime somebody would call the restaurant asking for Shirley, she knew it was somebody who was trying to sell her something.
Right.
Because only people who knew her real name would call and ask for Trish.
Right.
And so that kind of inspired that a little bit.
That is great. Well, if I ever find myself in your employ, I'm taking the name Cholito.
Cholito.
Yeah, I missed the Cholito. But moving on. Aside from Knox Brew Tours and the beer passion that led you to that, you've gotten very, very involved with a number of local nonprofits, not the least of which holding the office of president of the Knoxville Area Brewers Association.
Which I was super honored to be asked to be the president of CABA for the second year in a row because I'm not a brewer. And that really was a really humbling experience.
Well, it speaks volumes to who you are and what you do for the community.
Well, I think it's more like I'm Switzerland. I'm like
You're good at not really getting involved in the drama,
I'm the
but
neutral
solving
party.
problems.
Yeah,
well, fair enough. But tell me a little bit about not only CABA, but some of the other great nonprofits that you've worked with in the beer community.
Well, it was about 3 years ago. Missy Martin and I got together for a beer at Crafty Bastard, and we were like, how can we raise money for the Small Breed Rescue of East Tennessee? She was a huge supporter of SBRET, and we came up with an idea called the Cuddle Bus, which I'm really proud to say we've raised over $12,000 in the last 3 years with just charging people money to get on our bus and sit on a beanbag and pillows and blankets and be covered in puppies. Like it was it's the Cuddle Bus your mom warned you about, but
I have paid more for less. I'm just going to say.
And then Knoxville Area Brewers Association, it actually started in the summer of 2015. A lot of the brewers kept talking about how they wanted a Brewers Guild, and I was like, why are we dragging our feet? So I wrote every single one of them an email with a date, a time, and a place, and I said, if you care about Knoxville beer, show up to this date, and let's make it happen. And that was the birth of the Knoxville Area Brewers Association. I'm very lucky and honored that I've been able to be a board member since day one and president the last year and a half.
That's awesome, man. And a little bit about CABA. Does it pretty much represent all of the breweries locally? Are they pretty much all involved?
Every single brewery in Knox County is involved. Yeah,
that's awesome, and a lot of other ancillary.
Yeah, and counties touching Knox County as well.
Well, I mean other businesses.
Oh, affiliates.
Yeah, affiliate businesses.
Yeah,
sorry.
Casual Pint, Nox Brew Tours, Hops and Hollers, Postmodern Spirits, the Brewing and Distilling Center. Basically, anyone that we felt like sort of embodied the spirit of what we were trying to do in Knoxville and relied on craft beer. We wanted them to be a part of what we were doing. That's actually something that sets CABA apart from a lot of other guilds. is that we have a heavy involvement from non-brewery members in our association.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to tell us a little bit about yourself and let us get to know you a little better, letting me get to know you a little better. And, I hope you'll come back on the show again someday.
Yeah, like next week.
That would be amazing.